I'm Dr. Kakit Hui, Director of the Center for East-West Medicine. And this afternoon, we have the pleasure of hosting a very honored guest, Professor Yongqi Cheng, coming all the way from Yale University. He arrived last night and already met with some of us. And this afternoon, he's going to share with us over the next hour what he has been doing for the last 12 years. Professor Cheng is the Henry Bronson Professor of Pharmacology, who has been instrumental in discovering and helping us get the benefit of a number of anti-cancer and antiviral Western medications. But 12 years ago, he decided to embark on exploring the potential of Chinese herbal medicine and using cutting-edge technology to study a particular Chinese herbal formula that has been around for 1,800 years, to use it hopefully develop as a prescription drug to help patients going through cancer chemotherapy with less GI side effects. And I have met Professor Cheng over the years at different type of meetings, and I've been very, impressed with the way he has applied system biology and modern, pharmacological techniques to allow us to hopefully, in the very near future, the first oral prescription drug coming from Chinese herbal medicine, actually a herbal formula. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to have Professor Cheng to come share with us his insights that he has gathered over the last decade.
Thank you very much for your invitation. It is my honor to be invited to give these memorial lectures in honor of late Professor Shirley Hui, who encouraged her husband, Professor Xie, to initiate this visionary, very visionary center at the UCLA. I think the center is come out of that. It's going to be become a leading center in the world in trying to better use of both Chinese medicine and so-called conventional medicine, or you like to call it Western medicine. So what I'd like to do today is to share with you what I see in the value of Chinese medicine. Then to share with you our experience in exploring a Chinese formula, which hopefully to benefit the patient with cancer. And finally, I may say few words what it will take to have such a experience-based medicine to be shared with the world. That is the globalization. As you all know, we are in developed country or developing country. We are getting into a population which aged individuals will become a majority in the population. Will become a major population in the population. So there are many aging-associated diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular, bone marrow degeneration, neuron degeneration, immunodysfunction, metabolic disease, and others are become a major healthcare disease we have to care for. And none of those we have sufficient ammunition to deal with completely. And furthermore, there's a shift of the paradigm of healthcare need in the world during the past 20-some years. It's shifting from disease care to the health care. That means the scope of the medicine today is well needed not only for treatment of disease, but also for prevention of disease or enhancement of quality of life for patients and even so-called quotation sub-health individuals. And then sure, for improving the use of other medicine. Oh, thank you, that's better. So for the past 80 years, that's the evolvement of Western medicine. If you think about it, our major focus is primarily for the therapeutic medicine. We haven't done that much for preventive medicine and functional medicine and accessory medicine. Why? It is, we know, for the disease I just mentioned before, the etiological reason for causing those diseases may not be the same. So just focus on one etiology is not going to have a major impact on the whole population in preventing a disease. And so far in the preventive medicine area, what we do this moment are very limited. That is also such as vitamin and some hormones. And so there's a big shortage of the medicine required in those areas. And for discovery of the medicine, we're basically taking a reductionist approach. That is, if you have it's with hope to identify a target associated with the diseases, then trying to identify compounds which have a preferential impact on that target with hope to benefit the patient with a given diseases. And indeed, such approaches are very useful, have yielded a lot of anti-infectious disease agents. This including bacteria, parasites, as well as the viruses. So the human average age of the lifespan moving from 30, 40 years old, and now all the way to 70, 80 years old, depending on the country you're talking about. But for treatment of those complicated diseases, it was very challenging. For instance, we know cancer cannot be caused for given type of cancer. Don't even talk about the whole cancer in general. It's not evolving from single mutation of a gene. It knows for even a simple type may require more than two or more than two gene changes. Furthermore, the heterogeneity of the phenotype of the tumor cells also being affected by the physiological condition of that microenvironment. This including the other type of the cells in the tumor tissue, as well as the blood supply of the tumor tissues. So you're targeting on using one single chemicals. It is unlikely to benefit majority of the patient which doesn't share that phenotype, or even you benefit may not have sustained action in both those scenarios being bared out, particularly in the recent so-called target-oriented approach. So then we have to think about, is any other paradigm we should entertain? And so given that scenario, this already briefly mentioned, so I wouldn't go through too much about it. The new paradigm probably will involve polychemical medicine. This polychemical medicine actually has been used in both cancer and the viral chemotherapy. To some extent, also is used in so-called other complicated disease, which doesn't. But the basic philosophy is still targeting on the disease tissue. This polychemical medicine, what I'm talking about, is more or less focused on the system instead of just a single diseased tissues. That is through hormone, organ-organ interaction, immune system, and so on. GI tract with the diseased tissue. And so it is not necessarily targeting on, and so this multidisciplinary approach area. So it's different from so-called combination therapy, which was used in cancer area, and also different from so-called a cocktail approach for HIV or some other infectious disease. To develop this polychemical medicine, you can do rational approach. That is one by one you add together. You know each one how it works. Then you put together, hopefully it do better, and also. Or you can, but that will take time. We should continue working on it. The alternative is looking for the history, whether there is any medicine used in the past, although it's experience-based, and can serve as a lead for us to develop future medicine, if it indeed having been or was proved to be useful. So this is a reinventing history and using this approach, that is many of the traditional Chinese medicine, actually, because due to the scientific advancement at that time, they took a more experienced and holistic approach, and which is just becoming actually an important area of medical research today. Some of those traditional medicines have claimed to meet some of unmet chronic needs, as I just mentioned before, for cardiovascular system, for protection against the inflammation and infection. And if for many countries, those traditional medicines still being used today, if a pharmaceutical industry, based on their historical information from each geographic area and the polychemical, and also having poly because it's from herb, so or polychemical in nature, with the clinic evidence, if we can back it up, and consistent preparation from one batch to another, could be a focal point to offer economic development of each geographic area. Most important is to be shared with the rest of the world. So, being a Chinese and grew up in Taiwan, quickly think, and although was not trained in the area of TC, traditional Chinese medicine, I'm a conventional pharmacologist, though I do have some general idea what is the Chinese medicine, superficial idea, what it's about. Chinese medicine has multiple medical claims for treatment of complicated disease or multiple symptoms, as well as disease prevention and improving quality of life. This historically claim. Chinese herbal medicine has many chemicals which could be targeting on multiple sites or act on a single site, additively synergistic and sometimes even antagonistic through direct or indirect interaction. That could be the reason why can have multiple claims, because multiple targets involved. So if you Chinese medicine, and often take a holistic approach, is a holistic actually, actually is an early form of system biology-based integrated medicine of today. So Chinese medicine is also prescribed on an individual basis to optimize its usage. So in essence, it is an individualized medicine or personalized medicine if we can find what's the basis for those individualized medicine. So to me, Chinese medicine could potentially meet some of the current unmet medical needs. It has its own concept and could serve as the basis of developing future medicine, which doesn't have to be evolving from the conventional medicine alone. There are three approaches in advancing traditional Chinese medicine taken in the past 60 or 80 years. Those are, one is to identify active compound and optimize it. That's a pure natural product approach. And that approach is useful. It provides some information what could be the active compound involved for given scenario. But it is really a reductionist approach because it has a particular target in mind. Second approach is trying to just not trying to purify to identify only one compound from that for herbal medicine. Actually, just to identify an active fraction and then fractions. And this approach has been taken quite broadly in China. But the problem is the historical information of TCM may not be that useful, since you may separate something which may have impact on the therapeutic effect of Chinese medicine. The third approach, that is the traditional approach, that is to verify the clinical efficacy using highly characterized polychemical medicine. If once you have achieved that, then that is in essence is a new, because the preparation is a new drug, you could use historical information to move it forward. And then you don't need to do some of the preclinical study in terms of toxicity, since human historical use already been useful as a guidance. And with that, once you established, you can understand how it works, you can further advance, making better of the traditional Chinese medicine, or find new usage based on the mechanism of its action, and also find optimal usage based on what we know about its toxicity. And the most important of all, it could also serve as a need for developing those reductionists that evolved the single chemical medicine by understanding how the interplay among the chemical and the interplay among them. So my lab actually is focused on the second approach, third approach, that's verified the clinical efficacy using highly characterized polychemical medicine. I already mentioned, if you taking this approach, you could go right into the phase 2 trial to assess its efficacy with a fixed dosage of the herbal medicine. But the problem with this is if you do that, you still don't know whether that's the optimum dosage. So our study always initiated with a phase 1-2 study. As a matter of fact, FDA also like you to use the phase 2 study sort of to get an idea about proof of principle of a formula, whether it's useful. They still wish you can go back to the phase 1-2 to really establish the optimum dosage and to continue get on back to the phase 2 and the phase 3 trial. That's for clinic progression. So our study, we have done 4 phase 1-2 studies. And now we are moving into phase 2 study. But no matter what is, the medicine has to have 3 major. First, it has to have consistent preparations. Dealing with a single chemical medicine, that's easier. We know what we need to measure. But for herbal medicine, we do not know what to measure because it could be targeting multiple targets, and what are the chemicals involved in targeting all those. So it's become a very complicated issue. It's a very challenge. If you don't have a consistent preparation, it will be very difficult to assess the efficacy without a conclusive whether it works or not. Since if different preparation have different chemical, you may have a different outcome of the treatment. So will not be a real drug. So consistent preparation is the number 1 criteria before you study anything, because otherwise you cannot establish evidence-based clinical efficacy, because the best you can say is that batch of the herb will give me that effect. Then can you reproduce it? God knows. So that is the challenge. Then in the process of establish evidence-based clinical efficacy, you surely will learn what's the safety involved. There's no drug, no chemicals has no toxicities. It's only a matter of dosage. We drink too much water, we will have toxicity. And so it's a matter of, and so for those people who study nutrition, using as a nutrition, also need talking. If you eat something too much, you have a problem. Okay, aspirin too much, you have a problem. Vitamin C too much, you have a problem. I bet everything else, just a matter of dosage. Proper dosage is required. Then, once you have that, you establish clinical efficacy. You can have a consistent preparation. It'll be fine. Actually, that's the baseline, what FDA really require you for that time. Now they do worry whether your drug, whatever the formula you take, since they may affect metabolic function of the other drug, or the behavior of the drug targeting on its targets. So they do worry about the interaction with other drugs. That is an issue we need to consider. Then to advance it, to understand how it works, is critical for us to understand how to advance it. If we find the action is only one action, why are we bother to develop this complicated herb? Why not stuck with the reductionist approach and trying to find out? If we find it is more than one, and then we have to think about whether we should consider by focusing on few chemicals, and which also, because eventually herbal medicine, the limiting factor, one of the limiting factor will be the resource of the herb will be used if it's globalized. So that's very critical. Furthermore, to trying to understand the potential side effects, you also wish to know something about the site of action and the active ingredient involved. And then you, as well as if you're trying to, through those studies, you also may be able to understand, perhaps, this formula can also be used for other purpose, not only just to the one. To the one. So this is, now the question is, without knowing, so there are several, so in the past 12 years, we pretty much focus on, our research is pretty much focused on those areas. So I just briefly introduce to you what my research interest and how I get into this. is my research interest is in both cancer and viral chemotherapy. The scope of the activity do include drug discovery through our understanding of the molecular and the biochemical pharmacology of anti-cancer, antiviral drug of my interest, and also we do try to translate this right into the clinic side to have better use. There are three types of chemicals of my major interest. Today, I will only share with you the Chinese medicine, our experience. Using reductionist approach and targeting on viral-specified proteins, with a particular on the viral replicating re-evolved proteins, we have discovered quite a few of antiviral compounds. These include cytomegalovirus, hepatitis virus, and most recently on the HIV field. And those I will not say. But for anti-cancer, we haven't got too much, even with targeting on the DNA synthesis apparatus of cancer cells, which have a unique property different from the normal cells in terms of regulation. We haven't got too far on it. This, but we are still working on those areas. The two approaches are taken in the lab. The first is like everybody else, looking for more selective anti-cancer agents with less toxicity. This is more target-oriented. The second is to decrease the toxicity of current cancer drug modality without compromising their anti-cancer activities. I already mentioned the reductionist approach is pretty much the approach like everybody else, focus on the first one. The holistic approach, but we think that's not sufficient because given the tumor heterogeneity, tumor tissue heterogeneity. The second is the holistic, so we think holistic approach. Even for that, we may need to be entertained. And in that case, the whole body system should be taken into consideration. It is for the second, I decided to explore the potential of Chinese medicine. What are the major side effects associated with cancer chemotherapy? You can grossly divide into two categories. One is hematologically related side effects. There, we do have some ammunition, although it's not perfect, to handle those scenarios. The second is non-hematological side effects. This including vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, pain, and fever. And then we do not really have ideal chemical, even to handle each one of it. Don't even think about all the side effects associated with it. And the patient in general, under chemo, depending on which chemo you use, do have more than one of those side effects. Then the Chinese medicine often claim to have multiple claims. So this lead me to entertain the possibility. Is any Chinese medicine happens to claim to be useful for relieving the symptom of vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, heat, fever, and pain. So after search, we finally decide on this 1800 years ago formula. This is an old Chinese name. This formula is called Huan Qing Tang. And this consists of 4 herbs. All 4 herbs are easy to grow. So its source won't be a major issue. Then these 4 herbs, we extract the same way, proportion and the way of extraction, identical as what was described 1800 years ago. The only difference that is we may select the herb very carefully. And two, we prepare them in a concentrated form, making them into a capsule instead of a tonic, which often being prescribed by Chinese medicine practitioners. And this concentrated then put into a capsule, so become more user-friendly. And also this will allow us to do at clinic study with placebo, since patient, the drug is in the capsule. Surely patient will not have a problem with taking it because they won't have the bitterness of the herbs and also some unpleasant taste out of it. So this one, then but before we entertain it, we have to think about this formula will not compromise chemo. And since this formula is claimed to be primarily used for diarrhea, so we wonder whether what is the chemo compound, which is diarrhea, is a major side effect and a limiting side effect. That is irinotecan. This is a natural product evolved, herbal evolved natural product. It's a herbal evolved natural product derivatives. The major side effect is diarrhea, and it is used for colon therapy and as a first line SOX regimen about 10 years ago. They subsequently changed the first line, now put it as a second line for chemo, for treatment of advanced colon cancer. So we use an animal model, which is a colon cancer model. We first test, does PHY-906 compromise the chemo effect? To make a long story short, it doesn't. If we just give one dosage of the chemo, do they suppress this tumor? The answer to that is yes. Is represented on the left hand, the green one. The blue line, as you can see, you suppress, subsequently they regroup because the drug is no longer given. But the surprise to us, when we combine, we consistently see enhancement of anti-tumor effect. That is not our expectations. So surprise always come up. Surely, this was never used for cancer treatment and in the early time. Then we see the toxicity associated with the chemo. As you can see in the animal model, with weight loss, as well as lethality of the CPT-11, that's irinotecan, as you can see, also decrease. So what, in other words, this combination do improve therapeutic index of irinotecan in the animal model. With this encouragement, the next obvious, so we're getting serious. About 12 years. Can we make it consistent? I will not go into what methodology we've been using, but two key omics technology is involving. One is involving chemical fingerprints using LC mass spec. Why we choose this technology over other, I will explain. If you're interested, we can talk separately. Two, we use cell as a sensor, DNA as a responder, RNA as a readout, using a pharmacometric system to see different batch of preparation, what's the impact on the RNA expression. Using these two technology, the conclusion is now is 5 years apart because we start 12 years ago. The first clinic batch was made 11 years ago. So 6 years ago, we make a second batch, and 1 year ago. So these three batches always come out with a 0.92 similarity based on multiple parameters. This is much better than I thought. And also, in animal model, we find out they are identical. So this is telling us you can make a consistent preparation of PHY 906 with high degree of consistency. Whether this is applicable to other Chinese medicine, I don't know the answer. But I think to say Chinese medicine you cannot make in the consistent manner is also wrong. At least here is already shown. The next, how does it, was not shown here, how does this compare with the commercial prep of PHY, of Huanqintang? The answer to that is about a 60% to 90% similarity index. This again, we use a technology, bioinformatics technology developed by my colleague and the PhytoCeutica, which is a company sponsored by Yale with a mission to bring a Chinese medicine as a prescription drug in the United States. And I am a shareholder, Yale is a shareholder, so here I declare a conflict of interest. Okay, and 906 also have patent, so also I declare a conflict of interest there. So we bring into the clinic. This was done by four institutes. Yale, actually in Yale there are two institutes, two hospitals, and Cornell, and also was done about 80 years ago. So that time it's a double-blind crossover placebo trial. That is, individual in the first course they can have PHY 906 or do not have. Then the second course you switch it over. So it's a crossover design. And with this, so 20 plus patients involved and 40 data points. Just 2 cycles, then we evaluate the outcome. Here is the outcome. This is primarily organized by Professor Eddie Chu, who was at Yale as a deputy director of Cancer Center, and who actually is responsible for the responsible for all the clinical studies we did so far. Now he moved to University of Pittsburgh and being deputy director of Cancer Center there. So this is the result. As you can see, with the placebo, we do see diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, fatigue, grade 3, grade 4 toxicity. This is pretty much the same as what was published by others. But whereas with the PHY 906, as you can see, we do not see any grade 3, grade 4 toxicity. That is amazing. And so that is amazing. So even with the small number, we can see the big difference of the outcome in terms of toxicity. As far as the survival time, that time we didn't go that far. This was intended for much bigger populations for expanding to the phase 2. Unfortunately, at that time, the FDA approved a new first-line protocol for treatment of colon cancer. That is currently used, the FOX protocol. And so we no longer can get patients to do further clinical study because they have to enter the first line. So now we just finished another, those are naive patients. And now so into second line, now we have to deal with a different population of patients, which already went through the first line and now recurrence. So we just finished another phase 1-2 study, and with much more in-depth marker analysis, also pharmacokinetic studies. And then, so the phase 2 study of that population will be initiated probably in November. That one will be funded by NCI, National Cancer Institute, through a program project grant. And the initiation was supposed to be last year, but due to the limit of the drug and also we didn't start it. We will start it pretty soon. But important is this is a PO1 program project. It is evaluated by my peers who are not familiar with Chinese medicine. Most of them are more reductionist stuff in mind. Now they start to fund such a project. That means they are changing their mind, changing their mind. So I think you will anticipate NIH will, if you have a strong scientific basis, and they will start to fund the grants with those. This is the first formula, Chinese medicine, any herbal medicine formula ever been funded through this mechanism. So we are very proud of it. And so this involving phase 2 study involving 3 institutions. One is Yale, 2 City of Hope, 2 is Pittsburgh, 3 is City of Hope in Los Angeles. Professor Yan Yun will need the one in here. And so the issue is in Chinese medicine formula. They often have this concept, imperial, ministry, assistant, and servant herbs. So does this formula, they also have something. How do I explain assistant servant herb? That is to facilitate other chemicals for uptake through the GI tract, since it's oral, or to decrease the metabolism of certain chemicals in the GI tract. In this formula, is anything there to do this job? So we focus on 2 key. One is the limiting factor. One is the P-glycoprotein. This is so-called MDR proteins. Does this formula have anything inhibiting MDR? The answer to that is yes. Also, we focus on CYP3A4, which is a major cytokine responsible for degradation of many chemicals. Then also they have inhibition. So if there's a chemical which have difficulty to be taken orally due to the limitation of being served as a substrate for this pump or a substrate for this enzyme, in the presence of this formula, the chemical can get through. So you can see through this study, not only you understand there are something which helping, maybe some chemical which are supposed to be active, but no longer active because of those barriers, now can get into the circulation to be active if their action requires them to get into circulation. It's not only limited to that, but also for some of the traditional, conventional medicine which have those problems in combination. In essence, it's a drug-drug interactions. Surely you also have a potential, some of the toxic compound you don't want it to go in. They may also stick it in. All those need to be taken into consideration. But the basic concept is the DOS as the assistant associate drug is there. This indeed is what we've been trying to do in today's modern world. I give you an example. For HIV, it was a poor protease inhibitor, and by Abbott, and that one turned out is a very potent inhibitor for CYP3A4. So now even the compound is very poor in relative to other. Now they can help the other drugs orally uptake. So always include in the any protease involved, well, HIV protease involved protocol. So here is just give you, so this herb theoretically can also do, formula can also do that we actually already know what chemical and can do it. That's not going to be discussed here. So the clinic study already initiated, looks promising, the diarrhea issue. So what could be the mechanism involving in decreasing diarrhea and in of patients under chemo CPT-11? So we did this study using a preclinical model, giving the drug PH1906, as you can see on the day 2, day 4, do nothing. But in contrast, CPT-11, if you just look at the tissue, you can see day 2 already caused damage. Day 4 is even worse after one dosage. But in contrast, if you do the CPT-11 PH1906 giving in combination, day 2 you do see the damage. So you didn't really prevent the damage. But the surprise to us is day 4, they all back to the, just like your PH1906 or control. So the tissue recover very fast, even much better than day 2. What could be the mechanism? Before we get into that, just tell you this, when they get back, and they all differentiate very well, just not the phenotype. They all pineal cell or lysozyme. So all those. So then the mechanism, to make a long story short, without going into detail, because this was published in the Science series, Translational Research. Here is a journal which do not like to take many of those, surely not formula, don't even talk of Chinese. Then now they are willing to publish. So it means, again, the world is changing, okay? So this was published in Science, if you want to know detail. But just to tell you, how does it work? Basically, you can divide into, first is anti-inflammatory. But anti-inflammatory, not only one mechanism, actually mediated through 3 different mechanisms. That is COX-2, INOS inhibition, as well as NF-kappa B. How do they enhance tissue recovery? Actually, it's coming from, it's promoting stem progenitor cell growth. On top of that, actually, is so what could be the mechanism involving in promoting stem progenitor cells? There are 2 mechanisms already being identified. One is increasing Wnt pathway machine, Wnt mediated pathway machine, which is very critical for stem cell and progenitor cell growth. 2 is potential the Wnt action on that machine. So it's very, so just giving you these 5 mechanisms, you know there's no single medicine can ever achieve that purpose. That's the uniqueness. That you cannot substitute for. That's why you need. I thought I started at 1:10, 12:10. So I paced myself to stop at 10. I only have 5 more minutes. 15 or 10? 5.
5.
Only have 5.
It gives some time for questions.
Okay. I could actually stop here, just show you what I intend to talk. And then how does it do in enhancing anti-cancer activities? So here in the GI tract, you see decrease of inflammation. But surprise to us, in the tumor tissue, we see enhancement of inflammation. You all know chronic inflammation is critical for tumor progression. But the acute inflammation will be bad for tumor to grow. And this study was in collaboration with the group at the NCI using using RNA array technology. Again, it's already published. So here is in two different tissues. They do two different jobs. What could be responsible for it? We actually just get a hint why it does it. I will not try to elaborate more because of the time involved. Okay, here I only demonstrate to you is PHY-906 interaction with irinotecan for treatment of cancer patients. Is this only working for this particular drug, or is more general, can be applied to many other chemotherapeutic drugs? There is a list of the chemical, all have a different mechanism. PHY-906 can enhance their anti-cancer actions. So you can see variety of them. And we've given what the liver cancer is another major issue of my interest. So we decided at that time to focus on captocidabine, which is a 5-fluoro prodrug. Didn't show that effectiveness against the liver cancer. So in animal model, we find a combination doing a great job. So we decided to explore it in the clinic setting without going to tell you the more background about it. This is the clinic result. Please focus on the left-hand side, right-hand side. There are 20 patients involved. Majority from West Coast, and as a matter of fact, majority from City of Hope. This is done by Professor Yan at the City of Hope, and Stanford also contribute quite a bit, but not many from Yale. And so 20 patients, all in CHOP-QA, and then HBV involvement, about 50% of them. You can see the median survival time of them. This is a phase 1/2 result. It's about 10.9 months. You take a look of the grade 3, grade 4 toxicity. It's pretty much 0 in that. Now if you look at the sorafenib trial, this is their phase 3 trial. That is the only drug now today being approved. As you can see, again, where their patient is all near to 100%, no matter in the Asia or in European trial. But most important, the median survival time of the placebo in the Europe is about Europe and the US is about 7 months, but in China it's only about, in Asia it's only about 3 months. So from 3 months improved to 6.5 months. From 7 months improved to 10.7 months. That drug got approved. And here we have I take a look, since we didn't have a placebo in this clinical trial. So I just take a look what population we are dealing with, since they may very well differ in terms of the median survival time. You can see here, it turned out there are 10 Asian patients, 10 non-Asian patients. Look at the survival time. The combination apparently doesn't help non-Asian patients, only 6.7 months, like the placebo in US trial. But the placebo surely help. But the combination looks very helpful for patient is Asian, and 16.5 months. Don't forget those patients doesn't really have the grade 3, grade 4 toxicities. That is amazing. So we like to continue this, but we got stuck because CPT captocidabine never approved for liver cancer. So what placebo we can compare with? So now we return to see the combined effect with sorafenib in preclinical model it actually works beautiful. So new phase 1/2 will be initiated at the City of Hope with the professor on the combination with sorafenib for treatment of hepatocellular carcinoma. So you say, hey, this is like a snake oil. You help everybody. What is the really common mechanism? Here is what degrade. You give chemo, you damage the tumor tissue, so macromolecule will come out. Those will serve as a good antigen for the local innate immunity. PH1906 can boost, under that circumstance, can boost immunological innate immunity. As a combination, you end up having potentiation of each other. By itself, it doesn't work as good. That is the common mechanism. And we do have scientific information to evidence to back this hypothesis without going into details. So I think all I've been doing, I don't think one institution can do it. You need collaborations. I've been collaborating with a different institute, different research group in trying to edit, because I'm not an expert in everything. Only through collaboration, I find I can benefit my own scientific interest, I think, and also can benefit the whole field involvement. So as a result, we established a consortium in 2003. This consortium now have about 149 members, including industrial affiliate members. Dr. Hui said he will join it, so you will be 150. Okay? And I think your institute can help the other institute in the consortium by sharing your experience with others. And we focused our mission with, I think, spirit is contribution and sharing. And here is the platform technology we think is commonly shared by those who are interested, not only in Chinese medicine, but all interested in the herbal medicine. That's the area. So that's where we, push the wrong button. Okay. So my vision of the future medicine is you will have merge of the conventional medicine, that's the evolving from Western world, and then the principle of TCA. And there are other folk medicine, also tradition, also we should pay respect. Only you take a human experience and all together, that's what is needed for the future medicine. Just based on the reductionist approach, we already know its limitations. Major pharmaceutical companies, nobody have much chemical in the pipeline anymore. So they are also started looking for. So in this consortium, three industrial members are international companies, namely Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Coca-Cola. They are very hot in the preventive area for drinking, for drinks. Okay, so that's how they tell you. They are paying attention to it. So I think here I have to, so that's my vision of the future medicine to come. And so I have to acknowledge, and that's the people I work with closely, and also the grants from NIH, and the conflict of interest I already indicate. And believe or not, I was surprised. We never patented the PHY906 name. But because of publication, there's even one company selling PH1 906. Okay, so the 海盗版. Okay, and so what can I say? So just don't get mixed with that. Okay, so PH1 906 is not commercial available, unfortunately, because FDA indicating you cannot sell it for that reason. So I have to make a disclaimer about that particular one. Thank you for your attention. Sorry for.
Well, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation, outstanding science, and a long struggle to bring an ancient treasure to the modern world. Questions from the audience for Professor Cheng?
Slides available online?
Slides make available online?
Yes, because most of it I think are published. Yes.
Yeah, most of the material has been published, so Professor Cheng is gracious, going to offer it online for people who want to learn more. Any other questions? Yes.
Doctor, I applaud your work. But I was wondering, what was the initial indication in Chinese medicine for the use of the 4 herbals that are part of Phy-906? They weren't for adjuvant chemotherapy at that time.
No, there's no chemo 1800 years ago. So the only they are using claim to be useful for diarrhea, vomiting, nausea. Those are the key. Subsequently, they find they can also intestinal cramps. So that is the historical claim. That formula is still in use today. That's why I compare with other preps. So it means they sustain. They already experienced the historical test. And so that's why we decided to focus on these 4 herbs. I didn't say if we take any one of it out, herb, it's no longer as good to fulfill 3 biological endpoints in animal. So we need all 4. So the FDA and also Chinese government, they often like to use that slide. As example, you need 4 herbs. You shouldn't take something away. If you don't know, it can be taken away.
I mean, the key thing about Chinese herbal medicine is that a formula developed in the Song dynasty, okay, is now used for geriatrics. So I think the key thing about learning about Chinese herbal medicine is that it really is not developed for a disease. It really is developed for pathophysiology. And depending on the pathophysiology of different situations, you can use it. Any other questions? Yes.
The combination with the PH1 906 and their invention, did you show any survival benefit using that?
The answer to that is that will require our phase 2 studies. So that will be initiated, hopefully next month. And in our early time, after 2 cycles, we can evaluate the patient tumor to tumor progression. Out of 18 patients involved, if I recall, only 1 patient have a tumor progression. That is as good or better than you use the SOX regimen at that time. So we are hopeful for the potential, but that is proven will not come until 2 years from now.
Yes.
You have choose this decoction from Chinese medicine, and then you use the same formulation, or you change the dose of each individual herb? That's first question. Do you try individually of the response? Is that the best combination?
Okay, it's a good point. First of all, we did not change any dosage once we decide the phase 1-2 result. So we do see some individual difference of response. We will try to correlate why there's a difference. And I do not think at this stage we can vary the dosage based on some classic Chinese diagnosis, because I'm not convinced the Chinese diagnosis have a good quality control. So multi-institution will be difficult to do. Maybe within one institution, after giving a training, you can do it. So we think it is a step-by-step. You jump too fast, you're never going to get anywhere. The key issue is we do see beneficial effect without even select the patient population. That's the key.
Question over there.
My question was similar, so he just answered it. But, I do another question about the dosage. Do you give the same number of pills, since you put your formula, actually 2 questions about this. Same number of pills to each patient? Do you modify dosage with patients?
No, we give the same dosage. We may need to, actually so far we don't have that experience. In our placebo form, the arm, we may need to decrease the dosage of the conventional medicine. But for the combination, we do not see that scenario. And our dosage is coming from our phase 1-2 result. Patient number is small. With the dosage now we decide to focus on is a medium dosage we use. Because high dosage, patients actually do not like it. Too many pills. Because we initially didn't think we need that high dosage. It turned out, but the dosage turned out is not that far away from conventional use, the dosage now. And so the dosage is fixed.
Okay, and one more question. Do you prepare the herbs in a traditional sense in that the formula is cooked together when it's dry into an extract? Or are you taking individual extracts of those individual 4 herbs?
I know your question is, if we prepare using the ingredient of using each herb first, mix them up and cook them together, or we mix them up, that is using what's available on the market, or using, in our scenario, we do use traditional way. So we put them together, cook them the same way, and then concentrate them, filter and concentrate them, and using that one to put into capsule.
I have a technical question about the formula. You say you have the similarity around 90% over
92.
among the batch. And as far as I know, like those herbs, the variation of main chemicals is around 2 or 3 times different. How can you handle that?
This is why I tell you, the most important is selecting your starting herb carefully. And don't buy those people who tell you that. Because many of those comments are coming from inexperienced Chinese physicians.
Even the collection time and the different year, they have different chemical composition. So how can you have the similarity in 90%?
Yeah, you could, if you know how to select well. It's even on the same land, you may select the different grade of the herb. Who you should trust, not you, not me. We should trust those people who have experience. I tell you a story. Do I have a time to tell you a story?
But they're still here.
Okay. And I don't know which was better herbs. So I challenge Chinese government to figure out what's the meaning of a so-called local, they call it 道地药材. I don't believe a word of it. It's the best 药材. So, but how do you know which one is better? So then I talked to my colleague in Beijing and suggest him to do some experiment. So the study he eventually designed, this is done by People's Liberation Army 302 Hospital, Xiao Xiaohe, who is the head of the whole army in terms of Chinese medicine pharmaceutical. And then they select 5 individuals with 30 years experience, 5 individuals with 10 to 20 years experience, 5 individuals with less than 10 experience, to help them selecting 10 different batch of the same herb, which are better grade, which are middle grade, which is no good. So the conclusion is that 30 years ago, in spite of they come from very different drug house or academic institution, they end up with selecting the same with the best, middle, and nausea. Then the 10 to 20 years ago, many are professors, okay? And some is from drug company. They do not come out with agreement. But there is a trend of agreement. 10 years less, there's no agreement whatsoever. So you can see the experience do take is what it was count for traditional Chinese medicine in the past. Now coming back is you cannot count on what do they look. They just taste, they look it, and bite, and then twist. So this cannot be used forever, because once they die, we have to wait another 30 years. So can we translate that into objective scenario? That is the study ongoing. I'm going to find out this coming trip where they are. So don't think. I think it's artificially people say, hey, I take different herbs from the market. You don't know where they come from. Then you say, sure, your chemicals are very different. But it's not a general phenomenon. Okay? So many of your concept is not correct, I can tell you. Based on historical, how they collect herbs.
One question in the back, last one.
As you continue with the research and get to the point where you have something that can be, mass marketed and used throughout in all the different hospitals, how will you control the grade and the potency of such a large quantity?
I didn't have a time to go into. First of all, I did mention none of those 4 herbs are very popular herbs. So it's not difficult, not like something which is like a very high cost.
2 of them in your kitchen.
Yeah. Okay, so number 1. Number 2 is the source is not the issue. Some may not need that, and 2 is if you use the standardized SOP, standard procedures, to manufacture a well-selected herb, the quality shouldn't be an issue, at least as far as I can see. So third, you have to consider the possibility. Those herbs doesn't even have to grow in China. Can be grown in California if you have a right place. It may turn out you can do a comparative study. The thing growing in California may be better than the one in China, or vice versa. As a matter of fact, I do encourage Chinese government to think about it. to grow them actually in Africa. Okay, because I have fellows from Africa. And so I told them this is something you need to think about it. And in Africa, also rich with many, many of the herbal materials. You know, where is the Chinese medicine evolving from? Very original. Yesterday I mentioned Africa. Because as long if we believe human race start from Africa. Okay? They go to different places, and based on their local environment, they come out with some of their own tradition. So respect the tradition.
Well, maybe actually he's going to be here for a panel discussion tomorrow. But huh?
I don't have time tomorrow. So
All right, one last question.
So if you release this information with this combination of Chinese herb, and every patient can cook themselves at kitchen, how can you protect your intellectual property?
I really, first of all, I really don't care.
Okay.
They have to buy from me. But all I can say is if you prepare this, my product, this way, not my product, from this company, will always give you consistent preparation. You make yourself, I cannot guarantee you will have the same result. If you get the same result or even better result, that's great. If you don't, I love to know it. Actually, I like even to test it. So I think it is we cannot advance something. I think the people often worry about intellectual property too much. To be honest, this formula is I didn't come out with. My ancestors using 3-2-2-2 proportion. And we did do experiment using 5-2-2-2. It turned out more toxicity than I expected. Okay, so it didn't work.
Thank you.
I think it's their experience.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the audience who stayed late for all these challenging questions.